seconds. Welcome, everyone. Thank you all for connecting to the Insurance and the Future of Mobility in the CEE Region webinar. My name is Peter. I'm the head of events here at Connectiva, and on behalf of the entire Connectiva team, I would like to welcome you all on the stream and thank you for joining us here today. I hope you will find this webinar beneficial and useful for you. So today I will be moderating this panel discussion. But before we jump into the discussion, I wanted to just share a couple of notes. So first of all, this is a live webinar, and I do encourage you to use this opportunity and ask questions and address it to our esteemed experts. You can just use the chat on YouTube and just type in the question and we will address it accordingly. And also, if you have any issues with the live stream, we will also try to figure it out. Second thing is the webinar is recorded, so we will upload the recording closer to the end of this week, and we will share it among all registered delegates. Also feel free to follow this YouTube channel because we will upload it to the YouTube channel as well. Last thing is we also have prepared a small gift, like a token of gratitude for all those registered for this webinar. So stick to the end where I will tell you a little bit more about the gift that we prepared for all registered viewers. So this is it from my side. Now, without further ado, I would like to introduce our esteemed speakers. Today we have Judith Worle, Products and Partnership Manager at Swiss Re. We also have Yanis Lasis, he's a Head of Sales Department at Compensa Latvia branch. And finally, we have Kees Verf, he's the President and Group CEO at Claims Corporation Network. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Really happy to see you all here today. Thank you for connecting. Obviously, you know, mobility is a very big topic, and just to set the scene, I would like to ask you to look back a little bit and to explore the last 5 years. So, question to all: over the past 5 years, what do you believe has been the most transformative trend in mobility, and how has it directly impacted the insurance industry? So Yanis, let's start with you.
Hello, colleagues. Thank you for the invitation, first of all, and thanks for the question. So, yeah, topic very important these days in insurance. I was thinking about that, and two things which I would name ultimately would be: first, it's a shared car approaches which we have currently on the field, and as well electrification in general for the all the things, not only cars but as well households and kind of things. Those two things, I believe, have already significantly changed the environment when we operate, and it's, I would say, every week we think about those things, how to get how to get it done more in a way that both client needs are satisfied and we do profit from that.
Thank you very much. Kees, do you have anything to add?
Yes, thank you, Peter. Dear guests online, welcome. Yeah, according to the most important development industry in the last 5 years, and also already by Yanis mentioned, is the advancement and the adoption of autonomous vehicles. also known as self-driving cars, which has a significant impact on the way insurance is underwritten, priced, and distributed. And it has the potential greatly to reduce the number of accidents, which are caused by human errors at the moment, which is the leading factor in traffic accidents today. And the shifts towards safer driving will lead to, on the one hand, to a decrease in the frequency of claims, but also the severity of accidents, and in that way, fundamentally changing the risk landscape for insurers.
Thank you very much. Judith, what's your view on this?
Yeah, hello everyone. First of all, thanks a lot for having me here in this webinar. I absolutely agree with both Cies and Yanis. I think electrification is a big topic that is now we see really everywhere. Autonomous vehicles coming up, shared mobility and new mobility concepts, I think, are all around. I think maybe one smaller example, which I found very interesting, and I think also kind of triggered a lot of what is happening in the future, is also maybe new ways of insurance. So I'm thinking, for example, about Tesla and Tesla insurance. So suddenly new players coming into the market and leveraging connected car data in some sense, new ways of assessing risks and also making money via insurance with that. I think that has also triggered a lot of new discussions and new ways of approaching nowadays insurance. So just to add to the above mentioned examples.
Perfect. Yes, we will dive deep into the EVs and autonomous vehicles a little bit later on. But Judith, just staying with you, how do you think the obviously the region that we talk about, the CEE region, is very diverse and dynamic. So how do you think the socio and economic dynamics of this region influence the integration of new mobility trends compared to the global landscape?
Yeah, that's a very good question. I think so. We at Swiss Re Solutions, we're really looking at many different markets, really very globally on how certain trends in motor are developing, and we do see that Central and Eastern Europe, they are for some trends maybe catching up. They are catching up, but maybe still maybe a little bit behind. We see that a lot in electrification. Where things are a bit slower than in Western Europe, but they do also show very positive trends. I think, in generally speaking, it's very often maybe we do see a bit of more fragile economies in some ways. So there can also be stronger impacts of inflation, for example, that then are keeping markets busy by themselves without maybe then focusing too much on many other things. But then also because a lot of the changes in mobility are driven by new car technologies, there's also the factor of, for example, vehicle age, the average vehicle age. So if you're looking at the European Union, then the average vehicle age is 11.8 years, something like that. And then when we're looking at certain Central and Eastern European countries, it might be more 14, 15 to 17 years. So things are just coming maybe with a bit of delay. Another big topic for many of these, both for EVs, but also for AVs, if you're touching this later on, is infrastructure. So both charging station, for examples, but even if you think of autonomous vehicles and the need for sensors to see lines on the road to really keep in a lane or something like that. So this has really an impact also on what's kind of how the infrastructure of a country looks like. So we still do see that there is still a certain way to go until this is fully rolled out.
Thank you very much. And Kees, do you think maybe the current collaboration between insurance companies in the region and local governments and regulatory bodies is sufficient to ensure the policy adjustment as mobility trends evolve in the region? And if not, how do you think this collaboration can be improved?
Yeah, on this topic, as we're talking about a very innovative forward process with a lot of dynamics, collaboration between carriers and governmental regulatory body is of eminent importance. and with that policy adjustments, which we will see over time, need to take place in the same pace with the evolving mobility trends, especially like in region like CEE, where the regulatory framework and infrastructure might be adapting to the new technologies and trends. And I've came up with a few points which I would like to share, which potentially could enhance the collaboration. That's early engagement between carriers and regulatory bodies, to open the discussion, to engage, share information together, and that in that way it will help both sides to understand the implications and challenges involved, to find towards a suitable solution. Of course, information sharing back and forth. Another point is start with pilot projects and testing. We know that Daimler is already for a couple of years testing daily between Munich and Stuttgart with autonomous vehicles in order to gain all kind of data, how cars are responding. So that will be an important, but also cross industry collaboration between technology providers, the OEMs, transportation agencies, that will lead to a better understanding, education, giving feedback to one another in the cooperation model. Another point perhaps is, the last two I would like to add on this topic is policy harmonization. There are multiple countries in the CEE region. Some carriers are present in a big number of these countries. Well, look there within that insurance group, what kind of policy harmonization can you already look based on some aspects from one country to another country, which will help the adoption. And also, I think what is important, we're talking about a long-term vision. This is not a sprint like that we have to finish today or tomorrow, but in the involvement of autonomous vehicles, there will be a lot of developments coming on. So develop a long-term goal between the carriers and the regulators. That is also, I think, of importance.
Perfect, thank you very much. And dear panelists, if you have anything else to add up, feel free to just jump in. Okay, so another question I wanted to, of course, discuss is the EVs, and autonomous vehicles is a big trend. So question for Yanis. Yanis, how do you think the emerging mobility trends such as autonomous vehicles and electric vehicles are reshaping the risk landscape in the insurance sector in the CEE region?
Yeah, Peter, thanks for the question. Obviously, yeah, this topic is quite of importance for us all. I could comment more even on Baltic side that there are two big issues which we could face. First, regarding electric vehicles, it is so far we don't have yet full understanding and impact of how the electric vehicle damages would influence other whole entire system of the car. For example, we will have next week a meeting with our partner Scania, which is fully trying to go to EVBs in the next 7-8 years. Even workshop about this. This is for us important. This is one thing. Second, which we miss here, is that where will be even Pan-Baltic repair shop hub, because currently we have AVBs in place in Latvia, for example, but they need to be repaired like Teslas in Warsaw or mini BMWs in Helsinki. So for us, which already CEE mentioned, is a question about the costs which will increase. So currently there are a lot of things which are not yet fully known for us. Still we are digging it. Charging stations, as we have in Pan-Baltic, rather much, but still question about the infrastructure, how it will be done, how we will allocate all together to make it smooth for the clients to go that way. It is very important. Yeah. Regarding autonomous driving, first of all, psychologically, still the question is open. I believe we will cover later. Practically, one thing, liability, if it is an accident, who is liable for that? I mean, individual liability versus manufacturer liability. And this still is both sides from legal perspective, not yet unknown, and will put rather big influence on insurance, how we tackle and look to the things. Because again, CEE region is big, that's the fact. But again, it's separated, and I'm from Baltics, and Baltics is quite an important market, but each of the countries are kind of a bit different. And again, the question will be how it goes, whether it goes from manufacturer, how it influences that. All the kind of things, both for client and both for insurer, are important. So we are kind of, yes, in a big foggy situation. We are ready to dig in, dive in. Would be nice to share with you later when we had the meeting with Scania next week, what their point, how we can insure them better. But still, I think those two things regarding which I mentioned are very kind of important for us these days.
Thank you very much. And Judith, the same question to you.
Exactly. Yes, I think exactly. I think a lot of the things Yanis already touched upon, I think they are true. No, so I think there's in general a lot of open questions, or still there's a lot of change happening with electric vehicles, repair costs, infrastructure, battery replacement, charging infrastructure, liability questions when it comes to more self-driving or autonomous vehicles and so on. I think overall for looking really at the risk landscape for insurer, I think it's really that we see more and more with these new technologies. What is happening is that also from an insurer perspective, this idea of we are just looking at the driver, we are kind of looking at the driver, certain attributes, age and postal code, and how many claims in the past, and with that we are making a pricing model that is not very viable for kind of future ways of mobility with more data availability, but also because the vehicle or the type of mobility that is there is just very much changing and very quickly changing. So we very often think about this, that it's not only the driver, but it's the vehicle. So really, suddenly it's an electric vehicle. It's not just engine power is not enough to kind of define the car, but it's different, and also the context gets more and more kind of interesting. So where is it driven, how is it driven, and so on, and to really also understand how can I take data, be it telematics data or really connected car data or vehicle information in getting a better idea about the actual risk of a car. So do I have a bad driver in a very safe car because there's very good safety equipment in the car, or is it a small electric car, so the range or mileage is very small, the way it's used is very little, and so on, but the weight of it might be very heavy because of the battery, and how does this then really reflect in what an insurer is then looking into. So I think that is kind of this general idea about new ways of assessing risk, this changing risk landscape, and then also adjusting pricing accordingly, but also underwriting rules, ancillaries, so all the kind of offerings around, and then really try working along and then getting this foggy shade more and more away, and then kind of putting more clarity as we go along.
Perfect. Thank you very much. I can see that people are getting active on chat, which is good. So I expect a few questions coming in soon. Judith, just staying with you, how do you think insurers should adjust their product offerings in response to increased sustainability concerns in Europe and globally?
Yeah, that's a very good question. I think sustainability is really on top of our minds a lot. Obviously, I mean, a good way is to not drive, I guess, which is, but it's also not something that that insurer are really at the forefront of deciding. No, I mean, I think it's unrealistic to say that if people are not adapting to EVs, that it's in the responsibility of insurers to kind of convert them to to driving more sustainable or less SUVs and more kind of small cars and so on. But obviously, I think there are ways of promoting maybe certain sustainability topics. So really, for example, there are examples of telematics offering, for example, where sustainable driving is encouraged. So that would be an option, but also to really see how e-mobility, for example, can be seen also as an opportunity of gaining new customer segments, how to make it maybe facilitate also this transition to electrification for their clients, to make this kind of transition maybe easier where possible within obviously the limitations of the market and the reality of that. Exactly, and then of course thinking also about other ways of mobility. So micro mobility, how can we kind of work together, that it's not only single cars but different ways of commuting and driving, and also e-mobility in some way, e-bikes, any kind of additional offerings that could help to make maybe this decision or kind of people changing to more sustainable ways of transportation a bit easier.
Thank you very much. In case, if you could, the same question to you.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, if we go through very briefly, because a lot of the topics have already been addressed both by Judith and Jannis in their talk, but very briefly, the few of the trends that's impacting on this part of the insurance industry. If we look at autonomous vehicles, we will see there a reduced number of human errors due to all the sensors and the possibility to interfere. What we probably were going to see is a change in liability from personal liability to product liability, liability for technology manufacturers or software developers. That will be probably a trend. Connected with that is as more and more the cars will rely heavily on software that makes them also automatically more vulnerable for cyber attacks. So that part have to be included in the coverage going forward as well, because there we're also dealing with cybersecurity breaches, but also of course data privacy concerns. And with all the amount of data utilization, insurers can leverage this data for usage-based insurance, offering personalized coverage based on the individual driving habits. On the electric vehicles, most of them have been mentioned already. One thing that I had on, which I came up with, is the incentives. As we already seen in certain countries in Europe, is that governments start to offer incentives and subsidies for electrical vehicles, and insurers in that way may need to adjust premiums to reflect the changing costs and risk associated with EVs, because due to the stimulus approach, and we have seen that in, for example, countries like in Netherlands, where it has been a huge success when electric vehicles were brought to the market. So the incentive part, and then the last point is the shared vehicles that will create also another dimension there. For sure, on the commercial side, usage-based insurance will be introduced, because there you have to monitor who is riding, where, when, and how. And of course, these premiums have to reflect based on the actual time the vehicle's in use, and the commercial coverage has to be offered, because it's the shared vehicle is not owned by an individual, but is owned by a fleet or a rental company. So that were a little bit the topics I had on the side. Let's say separate that already have been mentioned by.
And Case, we lost you for a second. Okay, now you're back. Okay, perfect. Thank you very much. You touched on a lot of topics, shared vehicles, UBIs, but one particular topic I would like to maybe dive deep a little bit more into detail with you. So the cybersecurity issue, yeah, the technology, of course, promises to make roads safer and like autonomous vehicles, but it also introduces new risks. Yeah, that, as you mentioned, cybersecurity threats. So do you expect the potential rise in insurance fraud due to complex technologies, or vice versa? Do you anticipate the advanced technologies will help reduce the number of frauds?
Yeah, the introduction of complex vehicle technologies, we'll see, will bring the potential for both an increase in insurance fraud, and on the other one, and a potential reduction in fraud. Depends how the technology being implemented and managed. So if we look, for example, fraud due to complex vehicle technologies, of course, there will be unintended consequences. But hackers might exploit vulnerabilities to create accidents or falsify claims. The complexity of a claim will, as a potential rise there, as vehicles become more advanced. Understanding and assessing the cause of the accidents and malfunctions could become more complex. And that complexity in the way could provide opportunities for fraudster to manipulate or to obstruct evidence on that side. Well, on the other hand, look at from the positive side, how could this advanced technology helping in reducing the insurance fraud potential? Well, then we're talking about data accuracy. So exactly we know at what time an accident was happened, or exactly what the location was. With usage-based, it's possible to real-time monitoring. So we're able to track and trace the car. And you can also think about certain cybersecurity measures as software to be implemented in the vehicle. So yeah, I think that it has both ways. It has the potential as due to the complexity of the technology that certain groups will be able to use and manipulate data. On the other hand, gives it also to the carriers the possibility to reduce insurance frauds because a lot of data is there which are not be able or difficult to manipulate.
Perfect. Thank you very much. And just stayed with you, Kees. I guess the final question about the claims side of it. So, how do you think insurers should prepare and tackle the challenge of fewer but costlier claims? You already mentioned that the advanced parts vehicles will be equipped with more advanced parts. So, how do you think they should tackle the challenge of fewer but costlier claims due to these vehicles equipped with advanced parts?
Yeah, so there are a few of them which I would like to touch based on it briefly. We will see more data-driven pricing because the carriers and the manufacturer will know exactly based on the data where it's being driven, what time, and with speed. So the pricing models will reflect the specific risk associated with this technology. And with that, of course, the introduction of usage-based insurance, which is already there today. Partnerships with manufacturers. I think I briefly mentioned that already in the previous part as well. Repair network collaboration, Jan has mentioned, but also more advanced claims assessments tool, such as AI-powered image analysis and virtual inspections can help insurers with accurately assess to extend the damage and estimate repair costs. And this, of course, will lead automatically to more efficient and cost-effective claims processing. So that were some of the points I liked to touch base on.
Perfect. And Judith, maybe you could also give us your feedback on this.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Just to maybe dig a bit deeper into really the pricing aspect of it. So that's something we also in my team we are investigating a lot. So really the performance of these advanced parts. So these advanced driving assistance systems that we are talking about. Obviously, the goal of them is to make cars safer. So the cost associated with it should actually kind of reduce accidents. And we do see that for cars where the ADAS systems are really performing, so really working well, we see a reduction in claim frequency that is higher than the potential increase of severity of these claims when they actually happen. So if ADAS systems, these advanced parts, are really performing well, then we see much less claims, and the claims that are there are very often less severe. But it also means that insurers to really grasp or understand also which of the vehicles are worth the money that is put there in which of these ADAS systems are really efficient or not. Then they need to kind of assess that. So there are ways of introducing this or understanding what is built in the vehicle and have this introduced into your pricing systems. And with that, we do see that there can be very positive effects, even if then a repair, if it might happen, might be costlier. But the overall loss ratio or the overall cost risk premium can still go down even with a lot of ADAS in a car.
Perfect. Thank you very much. And I wanted to also move into the next part of this discussion, which is autonomous vehicles and the shared vehicles. So Yanis already touched on the importance of the factor of psychology and trust and within people towards autonomous vehicles. So Yanis, what role do you see insurers playing in the region's autonomous vehicles adoption, especially concerning the trust, public trust and acceptance?
Thanks for the question. I think the importance is huge, but how to elaborate that and make it really happen is still a question, because there has been a lot of researches on conducting regarding how the people treat those things, and still there are a lot of unknown questions really whether we do trust something like that or not. But of course insurers, if they would encourage clients using that, having proper liability coverage from manufacturers in the place, or product liability, so it could give a certain impact for clients to use that, but still it will be more individual basis rather than this. But we need to give confidence, but we know what we do and how it's gonna work. But still, I think a lot of things to be in advanced. Clients should be, I would say, research how they tackle those things. At least for me, I can say that I'm not yet ready fly with a plane without the pilot. At least 99% all is automated. This is a kind of question. Maybe for new generation, it comes much more easier than for me, which is more than 40. So it means that still it needs some time, people to focus on the things and trust. But it is a future, most probably it is, and we cannot escape. And we should insurers go that way and support client on that decision.
Thank you very much. And Judith, the same question to you. And also, would you buy an autonomous vehicle at this point, or do you think it still needs some more development in this regard?
So I think that we should be really kind of like look a little bit into also what we are talking about when we are really talking about autonomous driving. We are talking so the different levels of automation, and then we normally talk nowadays about level 4 automation, which means that the car can drive by itself, but it can only drive by itself in a very clearly defined setting. So it's not that you can just go about and cross whole Europe with an autonomous car, but what we see now, for example, in the US or in China, are really car sharing companies that have their fleets, like their specific fleets trained on a very specific area where you can then go with a self-driving car. So that is reality nowadays, but it is very different to thinking that we have somewhere a city where everybody just drives around as they want with an autonomous car. So something like that, I would definitely go into a taxi and use one of those vehicles. But I think the question that I would buy a car or lease an autonomous car, I think it's really not not on there at the moment. Even though it sounds tempting, I really don't like driving or conducting myself. So it feels like having a chauffeur all the time. Sounds great. Yeah,
chauffeur is
and
much safer, I think, right
yeah,
now at the
yeah,
moment.
exactly. So I can scroll on my phone or exactly eat with 2 hands and so on. Yeah. Yeah, I think that also here it really depends also a bit who we are looking at. Of course, insurers, that's a mobility trend that is coming that we have to prepare. There's a lot of open questions about how to assess the risk, where the liability changes and so on. But then it's also a very different business model. No, it's then probably really thinking about how do I work with these fleet providers who are having autonomous cars, or how am I working with OEMs that provide us autonomous cars, and am I a very big insurer that is working globally, and then I probably, for me, it's easier to kind of take up and start going into this field where we're looking at certain market volumes, or I'm a very small insurer in one specific market until an autonomous fleet is coming to me, and like there's really possibility that I think exactly that it's just about also understanding how it then really want to look like in reality. So there is this question. I also understand public acceptance is still probably limited. There still is a lot of work to do, and as I mentioned before, infrastructure also has to be ready for such an adoption, and I think that is similar also with EV and the uptake of EVs. If the infrastructure is not there, if I don't feel that if that can work for me in my setting, then it's just not relevant for a customer.
Thank you very much. And just stay with you maybe. So the question of liability came up a lot today during the discussion. So your liability shift in autonomous vehicles and shared mobility, how are insurance companies and maybe insurance companies prepare for the potential legal challenges?
Yeah, that's a good point. That's something which I think is very much on top of people. I think both Yanis and you have already mentioning it. Obviously, the liability question changes when we are moving from personal liability of the driver to somebody who's providing this fleet of autonomous cars, or the OEM who is manufacturing that. So there are a lot of questions about this liability, and that is something. For example, we in my team, we are looking into how we can assess that in the future, and how this really changes, how to kind of rate or define the risk that is connected with these autonomous cars. I think it's also what gets here very clear again, and much more extreme than it is for EVs, is that you don't have claims data in the classic sense. You have hardly any accidents with autonomous cars, and autonomous cars, they're getting better and better. They are training and becoming better drivers as they are kind of doing mileages on the road. So the way how you're assessing risk from a classic approach where you have your claims data that you are collecting over many years, and then you're building a GLM, and then based on this you put a price tag to that. That is something which is not working, because you just don't have this experience. So it's not only a question about how to kind of really write this risk, but then also how to assess the risk and how to do this in detail. And then it's really about understanding if that is really in your potential as an insurer, for example, start with leasing companies or fleets that are providing such autonomous cars, and really sit down and try to understand what is there and how this is rolled out. But of course, a lot of that is regulated, and it's not something which is still developing. So exactly, I think there's still a lot of work on a much higher level to do before we can really dig into how a specific carrier and a specific market can kind of tackle autonomous cars.
Perfect. Thank you very much. In case the same question to you, maybe.
Yes. Yeah. Looking forward, and I wrote down also during Judith's talks several points related to this topic. And of course, and that's already has been introduced in several countries, not at the same adoption level in all countries, but UBI, usage-based insurance, give the possibility to offer personalized premiums in order for customers who demonstrate safe driving habits. So that will reduce premium level based on speed, acceleration, braking, distance traveled, etc. The telematic service that can be more offered as a value-added service, even in where you can look at tips for improving fuel efficiency or alerts on vehicle maintenance can be involved. Well, another part there is connected to it, although I think we don't have seen it yet, but for sure I think it will come, is to offer reward programs where there will be all kind of collaboration and partnerships with well, let's say basic things as grabbing coffee or eating a donut in case you are scoring a certain amount of points. So reward programs, and there you can think about from very small coffee to bigger discount on tires, and you name it, and to find there all kind of collaboration and cooperation on it, as a part of this value-added services, and next to the maintenance. You could also think about adding roadside assistance services, including or even parking service based on data collected from the connected vehicles. And in a lot of cities in Europe, you already see now that when you're parking your car, you have to register to a certain code based on your license plate and the code that you have to add. And you said, yes, please start the parking time now. And you have to say out when you want to finish it. But is it not foreseeable that this is done based on data as well? Because the data knows where the car is standing still. The data or the technology, the software knows that it's a paid parking area. So at the moment, the vehicle, let's say, has not moved for 5 seconds, it automatically will connect to the parking provider, and automatically the car is being parked. At the moment, the driver is moving away, let's say after 1 hour of shopping or visiting a client, and the vehicle starts driving. Well, the data knows, okay, it's not parked anymore. It's leaving the location, and we disconnect from the parking provider. So that was a point I was thinking as well on this. And the last point, because the other ones I think already you did touch most of them, is the pay per use model, where customers only pay for coverage when they're using the vehicle, and potentially appealing to those who use the vehicle infrequently. And that's another, I think, model we will see in this area. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And the last question in this section, I would like to address the trend of car ownership. So there was a study that Europe Assistance recently announced, and they announced it in the first edition of the Auto and Mobility Barometer. So they conducted a survey among 6,000 people across 6 countries in Europe. The research discovered that 1 European car owner out of 3 could consider not having a personal car in the future. So, Yanis, do you think that this trend will also affect the CEE region? If so, how do you think regional insurers should prepare for this consequent change in insurance portfolios?
A wide scope question. Generally, I'm the one who are not having a car. I'm using the full service leasing things, or whatever you call it. I'm in favor, and I think, yes, new generation for sure will go this way. They are mobile, we are mobile, we move around the world, we love to travel. So I think this is a very kind of good approach. Not bothering yourself with additional properties and problems of selling the assets, maybe which are not anymore liquid. So I think this is a tendency we should be. What does it mean for insurers? It means 2 things. First of all, individual versus fleet. This is for sure. So there will be more fleets. We have in Latvia maybe client Europe car, similar things, which we do insure. So the tendencies are two there. You can work with a client and see the data behaviors, they have it, they check it. So in line, you can have it a good portfolio. And second tendency, at least what we see here, it's those companies are trying to very specifically have rather high deductibles for the fleets and manage kind of those things internally. An insurer steps in only with the big claims, so to say. At least this is what we see in Baltics. That's quite fine. But general good tendency, yes, this is data driven, but it means in collaboration with Dutch companies, we could choose and pick up cherry picking good clients as well, because I know behaviors, I know credit histories, I know their payment history, how they pay. And I think that this is really what we have to do. And it will, of course, give a certain info for electric cars and as well automotive driving, because if you have a fleet already consisting of certain kind of cars, we will get used over clients to see such a kind of peak cycles, and this is a good tendency, I would say. Yeah, minus big individual business will shift to the fleet, partly will not buy, that's a fact, but I see there a huge potential in that. For sure, one legal issue I would raise is that if it's liability part MTPL, there could be issues how to look at the MTPL side and tackle concrete and measure, assess concrete drivers' behavior before. But if the fleet on such a shared things, I would say, are properly managed, you can have a good statistics behind that, and data and future is on the data. So there should be good thing in that, I believe, and I'm in favor of that for sure.
Thank you very much. Judith, would you like to also add on top of this?
Yeah, I see another one who is not a kind of super dedicated driver. Very good. So we already tuned this. No, but I think Yanis, you already you touched most of the points. I think that not having to have a car is a certain type of luxury in the sense that you have to be able to not having, to have infrastructure around or other possibilities to make your moves around. So I think realistically, there will be a certain delay for, more rural regions, for example, or maybe regions, with a lower GDP to have being really able to get rid of a car and have different means of transportation instead. I think what is really interesting, I think that will also something we will see in the future, also how the adoption is between public transportation. So if in a country kind of manages to build or have infrastructure in place that can really replace private car ownership, or whether then the move is more towards some means of micro-mobility or shared mobility where kind of customers then try to organize themselves this shift away from a car. And I think there it's also very strongly depends on governmental regulations or incentives on how they push it. And also, as Yanis mentioned, we already see that with EVs that there is a lot of dynamics around this moving to EVs or some other mobility concepts than what we had before. So exactly, I think most of the topics on the what is changing for insurers, I think are already covered, but I found it interesting to see really actually how it's happening, how that's going to look like, this getting away from private ownership.
Perfect. Thank you very much. And before we jump into our final part, I would like to ask so we already heard from Yanis and Judith about their kind of approach to autonomous vehicles. What do you think about it? Would you buy an autonomous vehicle or would you still wait for, I don't know, 1 or 2 more years?
Well, I would find it very interesting to try it out. As let's say, to a lesser extent, we see more and more kind of autonomous driving, although guided anyway. For example, if we are on an airport and there's a shuttle line you will see that that there's no driver. It goes back and forth. Of course, it's like a short distance, perhaps a kilometer or so. So yeah, and it's very controlled in an airport. But for example, in Copenhagen, there the tube, the metro line from Copenhagen Airport to city center is completely autonomous. There is no conductor, no machinist there who can brake the speed. That's completely done. And actually, the only thing you see when you're sitting in front of the first wagon is a window, and you see the metro moving. So slowly, we will see more of these kind of autonomous drives. I think now they've started earlier this month. I think the first test now started in somewhere in California, where all the taxis were autonomous. So it will come. People have to get adjusted to it. I know that a couple of years ago when Volvo started testing with it, and employees could sign up for partly autonomous driving by the car. That one of the people there who I met at a conference was the head of innovation of Volvo, and he said, "I'm doing it already for 3 months. At the moment, I'm entering from my village into the ring of Gothenburg, and I'm driving to the factory. At that moment, the vehicle takes over. And of course, the first time you're sitting in it, it's strange, and you feel without control, although you can. But he said, yeah, if you have done it 3 weeks, it becomes custom. And as you said, you can eat a sandwich with 2 hands, or you can scroll through your emails, already prepare your day. So yeah, personally, yes, I would be open to it. I would be one of the early adopters.
Perfect. Thank you very much. So we have come to an end for our panel discussion. One final question for everyone. Obviously, we spoke a lot about the technologies, but I want you to maybe identify one specific, one major shift that you expect in the next 5-10 years in the mobility/insurance interface. So let's start, Yanis, maybe with you.
Sorry, thanks for the question. Most probably I expect already what we have, but in more deeper, wider sense is data-driven things. Data claims, artificial intelligence, data underwriting, fast underwriting based on claims history, data, preconditional things, factors. Sales as well will be very fast. The sales process as itself, purchase process. So most probably, yes, we will definitely go there, but there is one big minus in that. It starts to be commodity. Still, I would love to see insurance as a service, not as a commodity, because still it's an advice. Still, the people need to be served, well advised, and it costs money. When we go to commodity, it's as retailers say to me in Latvia, price, quality, and price performance. I say, come on, it doesn't work in insurance like that. We want to sell more expensive, good things with higher quality, but still, of course, data-driven things will be. And for customer satisfaction and service, it is important. Still encourage on sales side to make it more service and commodity. Thanks.
Thank you. Judith, please.
I don't have much to add here. I completely agree with Yanis. I think the availability of more data is and also the new usage of connected car data, telematics data, and then really tailored insurance products. I think that's something of the big kind of transition or change that will happen over the next year, really across all markets.
Thank you. And Kees, please.
Yeah, absolutely. Both, of course, hammer on the nail from Yanis and you did the continuous adoption of the way we already are going forward with further knowledge, more data, and more how we have to adjust it. What I think will be
case we lost you for a second.
Course goes to the car manufacturer or the software provider who will take that over. It's also for insurers, I think, easier to assess the risk based on the technology and the OEM. It's better controllable for an insurer than each individual risk. And well, another trend in related to that is that I think Janus mentioned, it should not be a commodity product, but it should be a service product. If in going forward, or it will be a shared, well, it's included. But if you were going to buy or a private lease a car, it will be an embedded product connecting to the car. So you pay a fixed price per month. And that covers the use of the car, and it also includes an insurance as well. So I think that could be two changes in the coming 5 years where we will see some developments, I believe.
Perfect. Thank you very much, dear panelists, for your views and comments. It was a very interesting panel discussion. I think a lot of interesting trends are coming in, but I think the most positive thing is that chauffeurs can still sleep well for the next 2 or 3 years, and they will not be taken over by autonomous vehicles. But yeah, thank you again for connecting, Judith, Yanis, Kees. Thank you very much, and we'll see you soon.
Okay, our pleasure. Have a nice day.
Have a nice day.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
very much.
Bye.
So dear viewers, so as I promised in the beginning of this webinar, we have a small present for all of you that connected and registered to see this webinar. So as promised in the beginning, we would like to thank all registered attendees of this webinar and gift you a 20% discount off the standard ticket to the Insurance CEE Expo 2023. So the expo is a 2-day must-attend insurance conference hosted on 14 and 15 September in Clarion Congress Hotel Prague. So you can use the code, which is called webinar20 without any spaces. Just enter the coupon code webinar20 at the checkout to get the 20% off any ticket type. Again, the code is webinar20 at the checkout to secure the 20% discount for any ticket type. Please keep in mind that the coupon is valid until next Thursday, so make sure to enter it before. And all registered delegates also have an opportunity to book the venue hotel at the discounted rate as well. So that's it from me. Thank you all again for connecting. I do hope that you enjoyed the webinar, and the recording will be uploaded very soon. So follow the YouTube channel and to stay up to date. Thank you again, and I hope to see you all soon.